You're around this team as much as anyone. Where do you stand on a potential Alonso return? Because obviously it's not as simple as just sign him. There's a lot of math that goes into the term, the AAV. But at the end of the day, number one, how do you see it playing out? But number two, how do you think it should play out?
So, it's so tricky just given the emotional attachment that this fan base has to Pete Alonso and that Pete Alonso has to the fan base and the organization. He is one of the great sluggers already in the history of the New York Mets franchise, and certainly had himself, his career highlight moment when it mattered most in the playoffs this year. I've long thought this, have a hard time seeing a scenario where it really does come together. I don't know. Part of it is a gut thing. Nobody's told me this, but I think clearly when you see what Alonso turned down from the Mets, you know that he is going to be somebody that is out there seeking a big contract, long term, probably close to $200 million. That's going to be what he wants. And I think that is something both term and AAV wise that the Mets are probably not going to be comfortable with. And so I think it's going to take some time. Now, if his market develops and somebody's willing to give him that, then I think he's gone. I don't think the Mets are going to match it. I think the Mets would love to bring him back on a number that they have in mind and a term that they have in mind. But if nobody is pushing that, or that market's not developing, then what I see happening, given the history of Scott Boras and some of his big name clients that haven't gotten what they've wanted early in off seasons, is I see it being pushed to February or March. And again, if he doesn't get the 5-6 year, $200 million, $180 million deal, then I think it drags out. And if it's going to drag out to that point, I think there's a decent chance that the Mets make a pivot at some point. And I think that there's a decent chance that it plays out almost in a way that the Braves Freddie Freeman situation played out, where they signed Matt Olson before Freeman signed with the Dodgers. So if Pete is nowhere close to signing and Christian Walker seems reasonable, do the Mets pivot and go to Christian Walker, thus shutting the door on Pete Alonso? I just think there are a lot of scenarios like that could play out. And to me, again, just gut-wise, make it feel like he's probably going to end up somewhere else. But I know the Mets would love to have him back, and I know that he would love to be back. It's just, again, the value that the Mets may see for him versus the value that he's trying to get in the timeline. Again, for me, you asked me point blank, what do I think? Do I think he's going to be back, or do I not think he's going to be back? I would say I'd lean to him not being back next year.